Hello and welcome back to the 4th episode of FNAF Simplified, in which we go through game by game, book by book, in release order to put together the pieces of the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. Today's topic, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, considered by many to be the most complicated, the most frustrating game for theorizing. But is it really? Let's dive in and find out, shall we?
It was all a dream.
Well, no. But why bring that up? It's a common belief in the fandom that, at very least initially, FNAF 4 was proposing a dream theory of types. That everything before it was all in the mind of the crying child, our brand new player character, and one of the kind of main characters of FNAF 4. Even when obeying the rule of only using the information available at the release, going into this, I'm not too sure that dream theory was the intent, or at least not in the way the theory goes. But to keep this as unbiased as possible, we'll be keeping an eye out for anything that is absolutely screaming dream theory. Before we dive in, there is two new crucial characters we need to know for this: the Crying Child and Fredbear. Crying Child doesn't really ever get an explanation throughout any of this, but Fredbear has actually been a key player this entire time. I won't spoil it too much yet, but despite him being a pivotal character in every minigame and 2 of the night shifts, he doesn't get confirmation of his name until after all of that in the extras menu. So without further ado, let's begin. Almost the moment we press start, we're told that there's 5 days until the party. What party? The one Ralph mentioned in FNAF 2 with the bite of 87? A plush of Fredbear appears in front of us. What did he do this time? He locks you in your room again. Don't be scared. I am here with you. The minigame then begins, and as the plush now sitting on the bed says, we're locked inside the room. Going to a group of plushies tell us that the Crying Child considers animatronic characters as friends, and the Foxy plush appears to have his head ripped off. So either that dog barking throughout the main nights got a hold of him, or CC likes Foxy a lot less than the others. We don't have to wait long to find out though, as the next day we experience firsthand exactly why the Crying Child hates Foxy. After exploring our house, including an empty girl's room with Mangle in it, perhaps belonging to his sister, we get jump scared by a boy in a Foxy mask. We'll later find out in the Night 5 minigame that this is the Crying Child's older brother. As we cry on the floor, yellow text tells us tomorrow is another day. Foxy Bros swinging out from behind the TV may remind you of Foxy's somewhat weird jump scare in Five Nights 1. Could this be a dream theory link? Possibly, but it seems more likely here that it is just Foxy Bro jumping out to scare his brother. This, however, is undeniably a weird jump scare. Not dream-worthy, but definitely weird. There's 3 days until the party, and Fredbear Plush informs us that he left without you. He knows that you hate it here. You are right beside the exit. If you run, you can make it. Hurry. Run toward the exit. If you try to run left, Fredbear Plush exclaims, "No! Don't you remember what you saw? The exit is the other way. Hurry and leave." Heeding his instructions causes an employee wearing a Fredbear suit to appear. It's too late, the plush warns. Hurry the other way and find someone who will help. You know what will happen if he catches you. You'll now be allowed to go left, with Fredbear and Spring Bonnie performing on stage in the distance, reminiscent of Golden Freddy and Spring Bonnie in the Stage 01 minigame from FNAF 3. You can find help if you can get past them. You have to be strong, Fredbear Plush encourages us. At this point, you have the chance to catch an Easter egg by going back right, where you will see Purple Guy help another employee into a Spring Bonnie costume. Regardless, you'll have to continue left, ending the minigame with Crying Child collapsing beneath a table. It was hinted at in FNAF 3, but I think we finally have more than enough reason to believe that Golden Freddy is Fredbear. In fact, in one draft of this script, I was going to call him Golden Freddy up to the extras menu, and then I realised that was the only reason to bring up the extras. So going back through Fazbear's history with this information, where can we exactly spot Fredbear? Like I mentioned, Stage 01 is a certainty, making him and Spring Bonnie the Springlock mascot costumes, which we said last episode could possibly link back to the shadow animatronics due to their spring lock failure in the sister location. In FNAF 2, Phone Guy mentions Fredbear's Family Diner, the quote, original restaurant. Combined with all the Fredbear imagery and the text revealed brightening this FNAF 4 teaser, I'd say that it's pretty likely that it's this location that we are in. This last connection could be a miss, but Fredbear might also be the true identity of Cake Bear, with Fredbear's being the original location and the Take Cake Bear being before Chica's creation, see the inclusion of a cupcake. And both Fredbear and Cake Bear being the Star Bear mascots, it wouldn't be a surprise. Now this could be an early Freddy variant with the darker fur, but there is a possibility of Cake Bear being Fredbear. There's now 2 days until the party, and whilst it starts similarly to the previous day, this time the employee in the Fredbear suit does not appear. Exiting the restaurant, CC meets a child with Spring Bonnie plush, complete apparently with a finger trap. Make that 9 personal FNAF mysteries. The next child we meet spreads rumours of their animatronics moving at night. Perhaps the take cake and give gifts give life minigames have already happened? As we continue forward, we pass a bully before reaching a girl playing with her toys of the toy animatronics. I only mention this as during possibly one of the most famous clues of the GT Live FNAF Talkback stream, Scott Cawthon dropped some clues to solve FNAF 4. One of these was in the FNAF 4 minigame. Why would the tiny toy Chica be missing her beak? Going to be totally honest, I don't really have an answer for that at the moment. That doesn't feel too stretchy. But leave your theories down in the comments and maybe I'll come back to this in a later video. I do have a couple of ideas of my own, but one, they kind of have not solid connections but small connections to later games, and also they are very, 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 very stretchy. The last child you meet is Balloon Boy. Not that one. He reveals to us the player that the party is for Crying Child. You then return home where you can watch Fredbear and Friends, dated in 1983, presumably when these minigames take place, before Foxy Bro scares us from underneath CC's bed. Dream Theory note, Balloon Boy. Yes, many children hold balloons, but in a game where a pre-existing character with similar base design, this does seem kind of purposeful in some way. The more important note is that we have a year for this game, 1983. Now reruns of shows have been a thing since the 50s, becoming very much commonplace during the 60s, but then again, this seems purposeful. Why go through all the trouble adding this Easter egg if it means nothing? But then, how are the toy animatronics here in merchandise form? Random Easter egg? I guess most people assumed that I filled the game with random Easter egg this time. I didn't. There goes my get out of jail free card. Didn't Ralph say the toys were new to 1987 Freddy's location? Roll the tape.
They spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility, they even let them walk around during the day.
So what are they doing in 1983 as action figures? If this is a dream, we could just sweep this under the rug. But think of the naming. Toy Freddy. Toy Chica. Mangle. Ignore that last one. There's really not much to support this, but what if they're called the toy animatronics because they're based on toys? Fredbear and Friends could even link into this with the cartoonish designs of the toys based on a literal cartoon. But who knows, like I say, this is more circumstantial evidence than anything, a hypothesis rather than a theory. There is now only 1 day until the party, and Crying Child is locked inside what appears to be parts and service or some kind of storage room. Behind us is a yellow costume with what looks like a tuft of brown hair. As the Crying Child pleads and cries for help, the screen fades to black. Between the rumours of animatronics moving at night and what looks suspiciously like a child stuffed into one of the golden suits, there's evidence that at least one of the murders has to have happened before the time of the minigames. Perhaps the child possessing Golden Freddy is trapped within this closet. We'll have to wait to find out. But not for long, as it's now the day of the party. This isn't so much a minigame as it is a cutscene, with Crying Child cornered by Foxy Bro and his masked friends. As a bullied Crying Child, Foxy Bro has the bright idea to take his little brother to see the very animatronics he's so terrified of. The bullies lift him up to Fredbear's face, putting Crying Child's head right inside the bear's mouth. As Fredbear's jaw lowers back down, the Crying Child's head is crushed, much to the horror of the bullies. The final minigame takes place in the Dark Void. Foxy Bro tries to apologise to his brother, but it seems Crying Child is unable to hear him. The Fredbear plush takes over. You're broken. We are still your friends. Do you still believe that? I'm still here. I will put you back together. One by one, the plushies fade away. As Fredbear and Crying Child fade out too, we hear a flatline, signalling the child's death. At first, it feels like we're seeing the origins of Golden Freddy, complete with why he's so much more paranormal than the other animatronics. Crying Child may have been killed by Fredbear, albeit because of his brother's idiocy, but he succumbed to his injuries away from the animatronic in a hospital. This is what makes him so ghostly, this is what makes him able to shapeshift. We've done it! Golden Freddy is stuffed. Slap that on the thumbnail, call it a day. Poo. If there's already a body inside Golden Freddy, how can Crying Child possess him? Besides, even if we explain this under the "what is seen in the shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child" clue, then what about the MCI? One of them would surely have had to possess the Golden Freddy suit. The most obvious answer would be that whoever died first would possess the suit, but we don't even know when the MCI happened. Yes, there's a rumour that the animatronics move at night, but small children are not exactly the most reliable narrators. It could be a clue to which comes first, MCI or Bite of 83, but it could just be easily a playground rumour about creepy robots. And is there really any evidence so far to say that the Crying Child did possess anything? This is the first time we've seen or heard of him. Could this event be important for something other than possession? I think there might be, but before we can talk about that, we must first talk about the main gameplay. With the exception of night 1, you play fun with Plushtrap before each night. A game of chance, putting you in a hallway opposite a smaller, less tattered variation of Springtrap. When you turn off your flashlight, he'll slink into one of 4 rooms off of the hall, and it'll stop you when you turn it back on. Keep the light off for too long, you will die. Run out of time, you will die. The aim is to get Plushtrap to stop on the X in front of you, to shave off 2 hours of your next night. Instead of the typical office, we now defend for a child's bedroom, with nightmarish iterations of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy. Whilst for the most part they have very similar movement patterns to their FNAF 1 counterparts, their design are more in line with the withered animatronics, see the head shape and Foxy toe counts. Yep, we're getting old school FNAF today. Admittedly, Nightmare Freddy lacks buttons, well, I have no counter for that, he just kinda lacks buttons. This doesn't really help us much yet, since we don't really know when the Underworld's location was open, just that it shut down before 1987. Something that's more helpful with the timeline, however, is the phone guy Easter egg. Throughout FNAF 4, there's a small chance that the phone call from FNAF 1 Night 1 will play. It may be reversed and the pitch may have been tampered with, but that's Ralph alright.
I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
This means whoever we play as during FNAF 4 has to have heard that phone call, and the only person other than Phone Guy who would have heard it was Mike Smith, the FNAF 1 night guard. We've touched on 2 of Scott Cawthon's clues about FNAF 4 from that GT livestream, but the third and final clue is 4 games, 1 story. This almost certainly means that there's an overarching character, someone who's experiencing all of this. Now, as much as I really want to say that it's Phone Guy, and that Phone Guy is the main character, unfortunately I don't think an Easter egg counts, making him the wise mentor of FNAF. But what about Mike? Could he somehow be in Five Nights 2 and 3? We don't know anything about the FNAF 3 Night Guard, so I guess he could be? FNAF 2 on the other hand seems quite likely. If you complete the custom night, you get a pink slip as Fritz Smith. Not only do you get 5 for the same reason as Mike in FNAF 1, but the name of Smid is derived from the German word for blacksmith, making it the equivalent of the English surname Smith. So we know the main character, but we still don't know the relevance of the FNAF 4 minigames. If CryonChild dies, he can't be Mike, so who else is relevant here that could possibly have a connection to Mike? Foxy Bro. Or Fredbear plush, but Foxy Bro is more believable. I said earlier about how odd Foxy's jumpscare in FNAF 1 was, as if you're dying less from Metal Murder Bot and more from a heart stack. What if it's related to how you would jump out in such a similar way to scare your younger brother? It's a stretch, sure, but it's worth pointing out. Also, process of elimination. Just like all of FNAF. Just toes and process of elimination. On night 5, the crew is replaced with Nightmare Fredbear, who has elements of all their mechanics, being able to appear on the bed, in the closet, and both halls. If you survive until night 6, the rest of the nightmares return until 4 AM when Fredbear replaces them again. Same thing happens on the now quite literal named Nightmare mode, except Nightmare Fredbear is all black with yellow accessories. Despite the extras menu naming him Nightmare, he's labelled Shadow Freddy in the game files. If Foxy Bro causes his little brother to be eaten by Fredbear, then of course the memory of that's going to haunt him, perhaps causing Fredbear to be even more monstrous in his nightmares, with extra mouths. And if you've seen Golden Freddy's shadowy counterpart, that would probably carry on to his nightmares. So all in all, I think part of FNAF is somewhat a dream, but just FNAF 4. I don't think there's much credence to all of FNAF to be a dream, but I think there's something to there being some dreams or hallucinations being at play during FNAF 4. Now, how would that all affect the timeline? In the early 1980s, a small child is locked outside of Fredbear's family diner. One of the technicians, Purple Guy, kills them before speeding off. 1983, disaster strikes Fredbear's again as the child dies in the animatronic mascot's mouth. This results in the retirement of the springlock suits, seeing how one just killed a child. This also leaves Foxy Bro, the cause of this tragic accident, scarred for years, plagued with nightmares until well into his adult years. Around this time, over in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a sister location to Fredbear's, 5 children are lured, killed, and stuffed into mascot suits by Purple Guy. His first victim, now possessing the puppet animatronic, guides their soul into the animatronic tombs. After a multitude of reports of the animatronics oozing blood and mucus around the mouth and eye holes of the animatronic mascots, as well as the general unsanitary state of the pizzeria, Freddy's is threatened with being shut down. Freddy's try and ultimately fail to find a buyer and end up scheduled to close. In 1987, the restaurant reopens, with added security systems including the new line of toy animatronics tied into a criminal database. The old animatronics from the original location, once intended to be fixed up for this pizzeria, but deemed too ugly partway through, are stripped for parts and shoved into a back room. Purple Guy takes up a job as the new security guard in the new Freddy's, killing another 5 children. With nowhere to hide the bodies this time, he leaves their bodies strewn across the pizzeria, resulting in an investigation. He leaves with Jeremy Fitzgerald taking over his shift. At the end of Jeremy's first week, Freddy's hosts one final party, with Jeremy on duty. Unfortunately, he gets attacked by an animatronic, losing his frontal lobe in the process. With Jeremy out of action, Foxy Bro, under the name of Fritz Smith, becomes Freddy's newest night guard. He gets fired on his first day, however, for tampering with animatronics and odor. The toy animatronics are promptly scrapped, and the withered animatronics are kept for a potential reopening on a smaller budget. This is precisely what happens, but as usual, Purple Guy comes back, just like he always does. One by one, he destroys the refurbished animatronics, before being haunted by the souls residing in the suits. In an effort to evade them, Purple Guy throws on the old Spring Bonnie suit. Due to the general disrepair and unsanitary state of the pizzeria, rain leaks through the roof and into the sensitive spring-lock suits that the laughing purple killer is now wearing. Triggering the locks, sharp parts of metal endoskeleton now free to burrow their way into Purple Guy's body, killing him. The broken remains of the animatronics and the purple killer are presumably found sometime later by the staff. Whilst the animatronics undergo repair, Purple Guy isn't so lucky. Phone Guy notifies all employees that the safe rooms in every location are to be immediately shut down and that everything in them must be left inside to rot. In 1993, Phone Guy finishes his last week as security guard, but is killed by the now repaired animatronics. Foxy Bro returns, now as Mike Smith, surviving a total of 7 nights before he's promptly fired for odour, general unprofessionalism, and tampering with the animatronics. In 2023, Fazbear's Frights, the horror attraction, is built in an attempt to revive the legends of what happened in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza over 30 years before. They find the remains of Purple Guy, now Springtrap, and put him in the attraction. Foxy Bro comes back once again, and manages to keep Springtrap at bay for a week before faulty wiring causes the whole building to go up in flames, along with the memories of the past. During this time, the puppet works to free the spirits of the missing children, eventually succeeding, with them all getting to finally have their happiest day all these years later. I told you FNAF 4 was simpler than it's made out to be!